Young Turks now has audio, the TYT Audio Network, podcasts of some of your favorite shows and new shows, including one with Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. She's going to do We the People with Nina Turner, talking about equality and justice and seeing that through the eyes of regular Americans who are affected by politics and policy. Everybody check it out at tyt.com/audio.
Prosecutors in New York are going after Donald Trump, his three eldest children, and the charitable foundation that has been running under his name, the Donald J. Trump Foundation. Now, this lawsuit was brought forth by the Attorney General in the state of New York. New York Attorney General Barbara Underwood filed a lawsuit against President Trump, the Donald J. Trump Foundation, and members of his family, alleging that the charity has violated federal and state laws. So what has this foundation done specifically that has broken rules, broken laws? Well, according to a statement from the New York Attorney General, as our investigation reveals, the Trump Foundation was little more than a checkbook for payments from Mr. Trump or his businesses to nonprofits, regardless of their purpose or legality. And there is already proof of this happening. We've seen some of the proof, and I'll show it to you in just a second. The lawsuit also says, for more than a decade, the Donald J. Trump Foundation has operated in persistent violation of state and federal law governing New York state charities. It includes the improper and extensive political activity, repeated and willful self-dealing transactions, and failure to follow basic fiduciary obligations or to implement elementary corporate formalities required by law. Essentially, he was using money that was raised by this foundation for his own enrichment, for his own campaign, his own political campaign.
No, not Donald Trump. Yet another scam that he has run in a life of criminality. So the offenses range from some that are in the gray zone, or at least Republicans can argue that they're in the gray zone, to crystal clear. If you guys had any violation like this where you use the charity as a scam to enrich yourself, you'd go to prison.
Right away.
Okay, and boy, they would lay the hammer on you, and you'd be, I mean, look, they'd have no mercy at all. If you set up a fake charity and you funneled money to yourself, you'd be, I don't know if it's decades, but you'd be going away for a long, long time. But since it's Trump, we all have to do kid gloves. Okay, well, it's the president, and we can't accuse him of too many things at once because he's broken so many laws, but when you bring it up, he goes, oh, fake news bias. Anyway, we'll get to his sorry-ass excuses in a minute, but let's get to the details of what he did.
All right, so when it comes to utilizing money that the charity raised for his own campaign, there are some specific numbers in this suit. The complaint alleges the charity provided illegal support to Trump's 2016 presidential bid by using public funding to promote his campaign, and that the foundation raised more than $2.8 million to support Trump's campaign. You're not supposed to do that. That is illegal. So Trump's campaign extensively directed and coordinated the foundation's activities in connection with an event for veterans in Iowa that Trump held in 2016 instead of participating in a presidential debate. That was a big story at the time, and it was a bit of a political stunt. And then there were reports that he hadn't even given the money raised to the veterans. It was only after he got scrutinized in the media that they claimed they gave some of that money to the veterans.
He's such a bad guy. So remember, this is a debate he didn't want to participate in because he was scared to go into that. He liked the other debates, but he didn't. This one, he was afraid of the questions he was going to get, et cetera. So he ran, and he did this publicity stunt for his campaign, clearly to raising money for veterans. So now, look, the part where he didn't give it to the veterans until he was embarrassed months later, that they're like, hey, you idiot, you're running for president. This isn't like when you used to run your charity in the past and no one paid attention and you just robbed from it day in and day out. We're paying attention. You're supposed to give the money to the veterans. That part is not an issue. He's just a bad guy for doing that. But okay, you could say, oh, no, he meant to give it until the Washington Post wrote a story about it. Oh, he was gonna give it right the day after your Washington Post wrote a story. It was a wild coincidence. Whatever, you're a MAGA dude, I can't talk to you. You don't listen to no facts anyway. Okay, but for the purpose of this story, that is not the relevant part. The relevant part is he's doing campaigning. This is a giant PR event for his campaign. It's an in-kind contribution from a charity, which you can't do. So, let alone at a $2.8 million. But by the way, that is not the clearest case. We have an absolutely crystal clear case in a second.
And it's not related to his presidential bid. This happened way before his presidential bid.
The clear one.
The clear one.
The super clear one.
And it's super clear because we have now already seen the evidence. So the lawsuit also alleges that Trump requested the foundation staff use $100,000 from the foundation in 2007 to settle a lawsuit between the city of Palm Beach, Florida, and his Mar-a-Lago estate. And the evidence has already been provided. It is a note that's been signed by Donald J. Trump, ordering that $100,000 to be used for the settlement.
So look, the in-kind contribution in the case of the campaign, the one with the veterans that we just talked about, the campaign clearly coordinated it. Corey Lewandowski, who was the campaign chairman at the time, is the one that gave all the instructions. Totally not acceptable. Okay, this one from earlier. No ands, ifs, or buts. It's absolutely illegal. You can't set up a charity and then have it pay your legal bills. That's crazy. And we have evidence of his signed signature saying, yeah, take the money that people gave to a charity and pay my legal bills with it for Mar-a-Lago. If you did that, you would be in prison. No, there's no question about it. So is the president above the law or is he not?
He is. He is. The way that things are looking, the way things have gone throughout his term so far, he seems to be above the law. He says whatever he wants to say on Twitter. He's facing multiple investigations. Who knows, maybe these investigations and maybe this particular complaint will materialize into some sort of consequence. But I mean, just right before he got elected, he had to pay a $25 million settlement in response to Trump University, where he defrauded students. I mean, he's been a shady guy from the beginning, but no one who supports him seems to care about that.
So that's okay. We have to enforce the laws. We have to, otherwise he can do anything he wants and we don't have a democracy anymore. So I remember covering this story during the campaign and I was asking, that's a clear violation. Even without the note, we know for sure that the charity took the $100,000 and paid off Trump's legal bill on a private estate that he has, right? So, and a property that he owns. I'm like, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? But the good news is today somebody's doing something about it. So New York Attorney General, wonderful, okay? They should have done it a long time ago. Finally, they got around to it. During the election, everybody was talking about, should we prosecute Hillary Clinton? Meanwhile, you had a lifelong criminal running against her and not a word during the election. But fine, at least they're acting now. And I let the MAGA guys cry. Our laws should not be dependent on how much alt-right trolls cry on Twitter, okay? So let's enforce the laws. Now, let's get to his excuse that I promised you. I'll read you this. This is his tweet on it. It gives you a sense of how he viewed his charity. Even in as usual, in his own defense, he botches it way worse. So here's the tweet. He says, the sleazy New York Democrats and their now disgraced and run out of town Attorney General Eric Schneiderman are doing everything they can to sue me on a foundation that took in $18.8 million and gave out to charity more money than it took in at $19.2 million. I won't settle this case. Now later he accuses Schneiderman of running Hillary Clinton's campaign in New York. Not remotely true, yet another lie. Schneiderman's out of office. Schneiderman's not the one who's doing this. In fact, Schneiderman took too long and he should have done this a long time ago and he didn't. His replacement has brought this case and for now it's a civil suit, okay? Although again, if you did it, it would be criminal in a second, okay? Now, but the part that to me was the most indicative is, this charity gave more than it took in. Yeah, it's a charity. That's what it's supposed to do. So, but he took in $18.8 million from other people and then gave it in charity sometimes in his name because he's a scam artist. He didn't give credit to the people who actually gave the money. He took, just Donald J. Trump. And sometimes he'd take their money and steal it and actually pay his legal bills with it. And he goes, well, we took in 18.8, but it gave out 19 points. You're supposed to put the whole damn thing in. It's called Donald J. Trump Foundation. And look, you want to take money from other people like the Clintons did. There's another shady foundation, if you ask me. Not anywhere near as obvious criminality of this, but it had its own significant issues. You take the money in, you give it out. Yeah, that's called a charity. But to him, he's like, well, hey, I didn't make enough profit off this charity. I mean, I funneled the money to my own interest. One of the things that he did, we didn't even get into it because there's so many corrupt things he did with the charity. He bought a portrait of himself with the charity's money.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. God, that's like curing cancer, right? He bought a giant portrait of himself using the charity's money and then put it up in one of his properties. He's such a gross guy.
He really is. And just to go back to his tweet, which was pretty pathetic, he claims he's not going to settle this case. He will, because he said the exact same thing about the Trump University case, and he settled it to the tune of $25 million. He defrauds people, he steals people's money to use it for his own purposes, and then he's boastful about all the great work he's done. And look, it doesn't matter if he's telling the truth or not, because the people who are maybe on the fence and the people who already support him, they're not gonna fact check that. They're gonna look at those numbers and be like, oh wow, the Donald J. Trump Foundation gave out a lot of money. That's all that matters. No one's gonna do the heavy, the heavy lifting or the digging to figure out what the reality of the situation is. That's why he's so successful in messaging. He lies about everything on Twitter, and it works.
Well, it's the job of the press to actually ferret out the difference between lies and truth. It's not their job to go, Trump says this, and the attorney general says that. I don't know what the truth is. Well, then quit being a reporter or pretending to be a reporter. Go get another job, okay? Go be a barista or something.
No, but honestly, there have been a number of news outlets that have fact-checked him on a number of his tweets. It doesn't matter because he's done a good job at destroying any and all credibility of the media. I mean, he does two things. He lies and then simultaneously destroys the credibility of news organizations that do fact check him and criticize him.
I don't care what MAGA thinks. If he broke a law, this is a lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court. There should be a criminal offense for stealing money from a charity and using it for your own purposes. That is a criminal offense. Lock him up. We need to be a country of laws. And this guy doesn't believe in the rule of law. He's too busy complimenting dictators like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, and now the lifelong president of China. And he's like, oh, that's great, that's fantastic. That's not fantastic, you idiot. That's a dictator that you're complimenting.
Well, yeah.
But he likes it. That's what the system he believes in.
Exactly.
He does not believe in democracy. Lock him up. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.